Hey team, welcome back. And today we are going to cook a dish that I'm head over heels in love with. It's going to be a piece of smoked and roasted beef. This absolutely cracking piece of wagyu I've got here that I'll tell you a little bit more about later. We're going to smoke and roast the meat and then dress it with this lavish butter. It's a jungle butter, so it's like a Thai curry paste that we're going to season out the wazoo and then fortify it with some butter. Cook some beautiful crunchy tiger prawns in it, season that with some finger lime so it's sour and poppy and zingy, smoky and greasy, and then a few crispy leaves on top. It's a cracking dish. It's one that probably years ago I might have thought was a Frankenstein of an idea with cultural crossover and a whole bunch of different cuisines, but really at its core it is undeniably delicious, and that, my friends, is what it's all about. So let's get cracking. First things first, this incredible piece of beef. I'm not saying we have to use a wagyu like this. This is a 9-score wagyu, the Phoenix. It's like incredible. It is so decadent and so greasy that even Jazz has come for a little look. But I'd be just as happy with a slab of rump cap or a beautiful piece of grass-fed beef off the tablelands. But today, this is what I've got. And the fantastic thing about a piece of meat like this is that those smoky tendrils are going to find their way through the fat veins all through the meat, and it'll give it this incredible perfume and a really decadent flavour. So first things first, no Jazz, not for you, is we're just going to pound up a bit of white pepper. And white pepper really has a beautiful flavour of its own. So we're going to need some later for our curry paste, but we'll also need a little bit just for this marinade. So pinch of salt, that'll help grind it up, and those beautiful white peppercorns. We just want to give them a decent smash up to help release their perfume. Okay, that's enough of that. So the white pepper in here, like I said, we don't need all of it. Some of it I'm going to save for later on. Now into here, I need some white sugar. This is some caster sugar that's going to dissolve really easily. And a couple of quickly bruised up kaffir lime leaves. Not broken up, just smashed a bit so they release that oily, delicious smell. And some fish sauce. Now I have done this marinade a million times on a million different cuts of meat and vegetables, and it's just beautiful. There's something about the synergy between the fish sauce, which is really mysterious and funky, and the sweetness of the sugar, and that really peppery perfume and flavour. Needs a bit more white sugar. And give it a mix. What you're left with is this beautiful amber tea-like marinade, which is great. So, with that said, grab our piece of meat. I'm sure the wagyu aficionados would be freaking out. Jazzy, no, about the way I'm doing this, but that's okay. Rules are meant to be broken. And then we'll just give it a decent sort of squidge into the brine, and that'll soak up, like I said, through those beautiful veins of fat. Okay, to make the jungle paste, I've got a whole bunch of aromatics here, lots of delicious ingredients. I'm going to chop them up a little bit first, and then we'll pound them to help release some of the oils, and then give them a buzz in the NutriBullet, just so that it's really, really smooth when we're cooking it out. You don't want bits of lemongrass and stuff all through your teeth. So, into my bucket here, I've got some garlic cloves that I've already peeled. They're going to go in. And I've got a little bit of ginger. And again, just a bit of a rough chop because we're going to smash it all up anyway. And I've got some galangal. It's very important that you use lots of galangal here because the ginger has one flavour profile, and of course the galangal has the other. And I often think that the galangal is like the more masculine, sort of broody sort of smell, and the ginger's more feminine. And then plenty of turmeric. Now we don't need to peel the turmeric. The turmeric's really, really fresh. The skins are nice and light, and it's been washed. Some beautiful little scud chilies. Again, for some reason these have been hard to come by recently in cans. I don't know why. And a lot of people at the markets are saying they're just not fruiting like normal, but it's great to see them back. So these guys are really nice and spicy. I think 4 should do it. Okay, what else is going in there? Shallots. So I've just peeled a bunch of shallots. So I think the ratio, you know me and recipes, not super concerned about it. We'll probably say 3 parts shallot to 2 parts garlic to like 1 and 1 and 1 of turmeric, ginger and galangal, I think is what's going to be good here. Now if you don't have shallots, absolutely fine to use a red onion. Just might have to adjust the seasoning at the end. We need lemongrass. So with the lemongrass, it's imperative that we prepare this correctly. So you'll notice at the widest point of the lemongrass, at the apex of the dome there, if you cut through, that's where the last of the root is, because that white fibrous part right in the middle is not very good. Okay, so then we cut it about that long and we peel it down to get rid of all this fibrous, nasty, woody stuff on the outside until we're left with the tenderest of purple shoots. So all the rest of this doesn't have to go to waste. It's fantastic for a braise or a soup or something. But for what we're making, we really want just the finest. You can see it bends and flexes. And it smells amazing. So a good idea, given that we don't want hairs of lemongrass, just to cut it nice and fine. It doesn't have to be crazy fine, but fine enough that those little fibres are very, very short. The lemongrass is what really, to be honest, gives it a lot of vitality, a lot of the brightness. By rights, before I go and cut any more stuff, I need to put the shrimp paste on to grill. So do use a Thai shrimp paste. This one is product of Thailand, not belacan, not the thicker style Malaysian one, because that won't give you the same flavour. This is it's a little bit more funky. So the shrimp paste is the backbone. The shrimp paste is what's going to give it that dark mystery, that really kind of elemental saltiness and funk. Yeah. So make a little foil patty. And then it's just going to get roasted over the grill to drive off some of that moisture and become even more luxurious. We're going to put in some more of our lime leaves, just torn up and bruised. And I'm going to put some beetle leaves in there, which are going to help make it green and sort of a little bit bitter and peppery. And they can just be torn into our mix. And I've got some curry leaves. So just stripping all the leaves off the stem to get pounded up. And then finally, I've got some coriander roots. Now I have left a little bit of this fibrous coriander stalk on the bottom because that juicy coriander flavour is going to be fantastic in our butter. So they've been rinsed so there's no sandy dirt or anything. So make sure they get really well washed and just chopped. I can already smell this coming together. It is really quite intoxicating. Okay, so there's the basis of our butter. I'm going to start pounding that up before putting it through the blender. Okay, always using a bit of salt as abrasive. We can manage that in the seasoning later on. Now we're not going to get it smooth with this, it would take me too long. but I am going to bruise it first, and that helps extract all of those essential oils and a lot of the juice, and it helps break down some of those fibers so that it'll blend really smooth in the blender. Next, we're going to add some dried shrimp. So these are just little tiny prawns that have been dried. They're going to give another layer. So we've got shrimp paste, fermented shrimp, and then dried shrimp, and then we're going to cook actual prawns into the butter later on. So it's just going to be layer upon layer upon layer of deliciousness. So if you've got an aversion to shellfish, this is definitely not for you. However, it is going to be delicious for the rest of us. Again, just busting them up a bit, break up some of those fibers and juices, and they'll start to hydrate with the rest of the aromats that are going to go in this butter. That should do it. So it's into the machine now. Grab this bad boy and we'll load it up with our ingredients and hopefully get a really fine mash. Righto, let's bang the foot on. See how it goes. Done. Let's get the shrimp paste. And we need to add this little funky envelope to the butter. And you can see that the shrimp paste is really beautifully toasted. So not in any way burnt, just that deep caramelization. Carefully tease this off the foil, and we're going to add that to the paste and give it one last belt and get it really smooth. It goes in there. Okay, time for us to cook the butter out. We're going to do two things at once here. The first one is going to be sneaking this piece of meat, which has probably had, 10 to 15 minutes now sitting in the marinade. And I'm going to put that into the smoker. And the smoker is down really low. So it's less of a reverse sear, more of a deep impregnation with that beautiful hardwood smoke. So let's over to the smoker we go. So this guy is just going to get a bit more of a roll in the marinade. Jazz. Jazz. Righto gang, it's now time to cook out this butter. So, we need a nice wide pan. Bit of a shout out, I got this Ripper from Solid Techniques, Australian made carbon steel pan. It is an absolute dynamite piece of equipment. So onto the grill with that. And we need to give it a decent lick of oil so we can fry this paste out. Just some vegetable oil of some sort. Into the oil goes our paste. And that, wow. It smells incredible, like it really does. And the flavour, even raw, there's this mix of shrimp and a little bit of salt, and then those really beautiful gingery rhizome flavours. Really fantastic. So that goes into our fry pan over a not too hot heat. I don't want this to be scorching, it just wants to be gently simmering away. Now you can see that the paste is really starting to simmer quite beautifully in the oil now, and each individual particle is trying to caramelise. Now it's a perfect time to hit it with some of the white pepper from earlier. And you'll be able to smell that straight away as it begins to toast into the paste. And so this wants to be fried until there's no moisture left. We've driven all the moisture out and all of the paste is caramelised into a deep, really quite thick and really highly perfumed, really delicious, really funky paste. You can see that the paste is really tacky and it wants to stick together. It's the natural sugars, the sugar in the garlic, the sugar in the inherent sugar in the shallots, and it really wants to clump together in the pan as those sugars get darker and darker and more kind of fragrant, heading towards bitter, which is delicious, and that's what you want. So at this point we want to season it very lightly, because it's not a sweet dish at all, just with a bit of white sugar. And the bit of white sugar won't add any coconut notes, but will definitely assist in just bringing up that sweetness a little more. It's almost a cheat code. Okay, time to hit it with some fish sauce. This will help deglaze the bottom of the pan. You can smell that straight away. I mean, this salty and sour from the lemongrass is how we want it to be. I'm going to take that off the heat and we'll finish it just up on the bench. And honestly, the smell coming out of this pan, deeply, deeply fragrant. Okay, so scratch all the stuff off the bottom. Right, we're going to strain some tamarind. The tamarind, I've told you this before, best way to do this is just lukewarm water from the tap and let it hydrate on its own and bloom. And then, 30, 40 minutes later, it's good to strain. And it just means that it's still really beautifully fresh and plummy and doesn't just get kind of banal and sour. So, give that a bit of a... Like I said, we're going to season this really quite significantly because we're going to account for the fact that I'm adding a lot of unsalted butter. So once I get it tasting good and I'm happy with the balance, that's when we're going to dial the seasoning up just that tickle more to account for the neutral tasting butter. Need some salt, which we'll add, just some plain salt. So there's a difference. Fish sauce, salty, but has that strong umami flavour. Regular salt just helps build structure, and salt flavour, that nice pointy, sharp thing that happens in your mouth. Okay, that's looking great. I'm going to give it a little more tamarind. And this sort of cooking, it's not about putting in 110 mils of this and 105 mils of this. It's about being mindful. It's about being in the moment and actually cooking with all of your senses. Smell, taste, how does it feel? How are you connecting to it? So it's time to fold in the butter while it's still nice and hot. I use butter in commercial quantities. So this is a big piece of butter. I don't know if we'll use all of this, but we'll use a fair whack of it. And when you're making stuff like this, it's so much easier just to make a big brew and then pop it in the fridge. It lasts a long, long time. And it's there for a rainy day next time you're cooking a barbecue or something and you just want that little bit more of something. Put that in there. Probably go another one. And that'll do it. Now you ask why butter? Well, butter just has this there's other things you could use. You could make it with pork fat or with oil or any other rendered fat really. But I love the way the butter has the mouth feel, it's kind of round and smooth, takes the edge off this really strong paste. And that's something that I just absolutely love. You see the butter really sort of just emulsifying. It's cool, the paste is nice and warm, it's not separating. I want to get that homogenized, creamy sort of texture. All right, this can go off to the side and let it just do its thing. The butter's going to continue to melt. It's all going to sort of come together in a harmonious way. And then we'll put the rest of the dish together. So just the quality points here, what are we looking for? Smooth and creamy from the dairy, that lactic flavour, so there's like a lactic sourness from the butter itself. There's the beautiful, rich, kind of smooth round shape of this caramelised onion and caramelised garlic, and then the really nice peppery, kind of fiery, sour notes, acidic notes, of the rhizomes, the ginger, the turmeric, and the galangal. And then the lemongrass just offers this continual fragrance, this real sense of vibrancy and vitality. And then at the end, you've got this yin and yang of beautiful salt and umami flavored fish sauce, and then that fresh burst of fruity sourness from the tamarind. Net result, something damn delicious. You know, I could probably take a bath in this stuff, to be honest. And it has just a multitude of uses. Once you've got it to here, you can put it in the fridge, or in the freezer is probably better if you really wanted to keep it for up to a year. If you're going to use it in the next week or so, 2 weeks, it'd be fine in the fridge. Slather it on anything. You could melt it and pour it over rice. You could warm it up with chicken in it as like a butter chicken type thing. You could slather it over steak like we're doing it today. Anyway, there you go. That's our jungle butter. Okay, time to check on that smoky beef. So, that is absolutely perfect. It is just actually done a little bit of cooking in there, which is fantastic. The sugar and the fish sauce have caramelized on the outside just under the heat of the smoke. I've probably got the smoker running at about, I don't know, 70 degrees. It's a pretty Frankenstein type affair, but you can see that it's probably just a little above rare, probably still rare even, but on the ends here maybe medium rare. So we're just going to let that rest for a second longer, and then we're going to give it a really hard seal on the barbecue. So that can just sit in the hearth of the oven there. Next thing, folks, is we're going to collect the garnish together. So we're going to start putting this dish back into its place. I want to fry a bunch of crispy leaves off. So another beautiful pan by Solid Techniques, by the way, and a decent lick of oil, ready for a shallow fry. Put it straight on the oven, on the fire. Some more lime leaves that I'm going to finely shred. I've got some curry leaves here, which are fantastic when they're deep fried. So they're just going to get fried in my oil in a moment. It's a beautiful perfume. Some little beetle leaves or climbing pepper leaves out of the garden. I'm going to deep fry all of those as well. And then this one here is, oh, if I can get a decent one, is pennywort, just picked out of the back garden. Again, bit of a weed. It's also called gotu kola, but it has a really beautiful bitterness to it, raw and even better fried. So just going to pick a few long, beautiful shoots out of the mess that might fry up nicely with tender stalks. And I just love this idea of sort of a dish that's got all these fallen beautiful leaves from the garden all over it. Looking very natural and wild, like the rest of tropical North Queensland. Okay, we're going to start frying off some of our bits and bobs. So I'm going to put the pennywort in first. And it's going to sizzle away. And the idea here is to catch it just before it gets, just as the bubbles slow down, before it gets a little bit too dark. You hear it sort of softening and going quiet. The rest of it will cook as it dries with the hot oil that's still on it. The beetle leaves. That one's ready. With these guys draining, they're going to take a moment to really crisp up and dry, but just while they're hot. Another shameless plug here, but this is our citrus salt that we make at Nunu, and I go through literally kilos of this stuff a week. And this is made with all the leftover citrus, rind, and salt, and a little bit of dextrose, and it has just the most beautiful sweet and sour flavour. So this is just going to be sprinkled over our crispy leaves and give it another burst of that sweet and sour kind of vibe. That's fantastic. So I'm just going to pop those on the hearth of the oven where they'll dry really nicely. And we'll turn our attention to getting this beef roasted off so it can rest. There's the meat itself. Like I said, it's probably sitting a little bit around rare. But like being Wagyu, I prefer to take it up towards medium rare, medium. I've really found with cuts of meat like this, because there's so much inherent fat, it's like you almost want to cook it twice. You want to get it activated and hot, and that kind of gets that fat going and liquefies and renders the fat. Let it rest out and then cook it again and rest it. And I find that that gives you the best sort of dispersion of that rendered fat throughout, and the flavour just becomes magnificent. I've got another salt to put on top of that one, and this is our spiced salt. So this is a little mix of clove, cassia bark, cinnamon, a little bit of star anise, and salt, and it really does. This has a wondrous, wondrous perfume to it. So I'm going to give a little lick of that on the outside. Even though it has been marinated in the fish sauce, this will give it a little extra dimension of spice and crunch. And I love those little crystals of salt on the meat. So it's over to the grill, everyone. Now, I'm just going to dip this in the hot oil that we just cooked the leaves in so it doesn't stick, and onto the grill. And what we want to do is work it. We want to continually turn it. There's so much inherent fat through this piece of meat. I mean, this would serve 3 people, it's so rich. You just want to keep turning it, keep working it across the grill. As the fat comes to the outside, turn it. As the fat comes to the outside, turn it. And this will build us this absolutely fantastic crust of really deeply, deeply caramelized meat. Every surface, just keep roasting. They've got that beautiful thing that the fat drips down onto the coals below, and that creates its own smoke like a yakitori grill, and it's just constantly fueling this drip smoke, drip smoke, drip smoke. Building smoke into the crust, the sugar and the fish sauce from earlier caramelizing further. You can see all of these dark brown lines all over the meat. It's exactly what we want. You've got to stay focused, work with the piece of meat. Imagine what's happening on the inside. Imagine what's happening to the crust. Nurturing it to excellence. You can see the juice just running down the outside. Desperate to escape. Okay. There it is. It's talking to me. It's telling me it's ready. You can see that it's like just hot. The fat's running all through the meat. The smell of that caramelized sugar and fish sauce is just incredible. I'm gonna let that rest over here while we put the dish together. And the big thing now is to make sure that I keep turning it, not allowing the heat to build up in one spot. If it sits flat against the plate, turn it again. Allow it to reach that point where it's back to calm, back to a stable state. And it's the same temperature all the way through. I'm just going to pop that there, where it's not too hot, but should stay warm, which is exactly what I want. Okay, last couple of garnishes, and this thing's going to get put to bed. Couple of vegetable components. I've got 2 green mangoes. Fantastic time of year in far north Queensland. The mango trees are laden with green mangoes, and there's a whole bunch of different types. This one here is a Nam Doc Mai, praised and championed for its acidity and crunch. Like, it's quite bracingly sour and super refreshing. This one, on the other hand, is a K Savoy, and it is sweeter and still sour crunchy, but a little sweeter. So it's lovely to sort of do a combination of the two. So all I'm looking to do is just literally peel off some of the skin. And you'll notice this one's quite kind of iridescent lime green. I'm not going to use too much of it. And they both make fantastic pickles, but I just think raw with this dish is a really winning combination. And then you can see the Nam Doc Mai in comparison is far more yellow and pale. So for these guys, like I said, I literally just want to get a couple of slices off really thinly, because we're just going to do a little tiny pile of julienne, just a sort of textural crunch that can lay over the top of the prawns when they're cooked. I'll put that guy aside. And then just with a nice sharp knife, cut it into fine slithers. Okay, so that's our Nam Doc Mai ready to be plated up in a moment. And this is where the sharp knife is always celebrated. We want to cut the food without bruising it, so the flavour stays exactly where we want it to stay. Now for the Savoy. That's enough of that one. There's that guy. And if you, I will just, as out of interest, taste both because sweet, crunchy, like a cut green apple, like a Granny Smith, essentially. And in the Nam Doc Mai, sour, really sour, but super delicious. Very refreshing. I'm going to help cut through that really greasy butter. Okay, last little bit of cutting. Some lime leaves. These guys need to be so fine, it's like hair. You want it to melt, essentially, melt into the sauce. And as it melts, and you send it to the dining room or to your friends, you want to get that heady, intoxicating perfume. And again, an astonishingly sharp knife is required so that it doesn't get bruised. Put that in our lime leaf pile. Now, it's time to cook the prawns. Put this bad boy together. So in here, we'll put a couple of generous spoonfuls of our jungle butter. Generous, okay? Not for the faint-hearted. This is for a dish for people who want to experience real flavour. Oh, here I got some tiger prawns. There is no better prawn. The argument's over. I won't subscribe to anything else. There's nothing as delicious as a tiger prawn. It's the crunchiest, it's the sweetest, it has the best texture when cooked. I've just peeled these this morning, taken the shells off because we're literally only using the meat. So I'm going to cut it into generous chunks and straight into the pot. So as the butter re-warms and starts to slightly brown, the prawns will cook directly into the butter, releasing their own juice and helping to kind of season that butter to a further level. So like I've said, I'm going to plate this up like a shared meal, like a bit of a banquet for dinner. So I've got a large chunk of beef and 7 prawns, so it'd probably feed 3 people, I don't know, maybe even 4. It's very rich, very, very delicious. It'd be beautiful with a fresh, crunchy salad. All right. Prawns are in. To the barbecue we go. Now that's ready to rock. You can see the prawns here have just tightened up beautifully. They've firmed up, they've become really, really crunchy. And the trick here is to season the butter with fresh lime juice. I'm just going to put a squeeze in and we'll have a taste. And that sort of emulsifies back into the butter. Oh, stop it. That's a dish on its own, okay? No questions asked. That is absolutely bloody amazing. Righto team, it is time for the moment of truth. And that, I mean, I haven't cut into it yet, but I'm feeling very confident this is a very beautifully cooked piece of meat. You can see that outside's glazed and there's not even that much residual blood or anything. It really has just rested beautifully in the hot smoke of the oven and then even more here in the bowl near the fire. And the outside tastes amazing. So let's do it. Let's have a look at this bad boy. Take a slice off the end. And I really want to cut this into a whole succession of thin slices, and have a look at that. So there's so much fat, it's actually milky on the inside and beautifully pink, but it's hard for you to tell just how joyous and pink it is because of all of that fat. Like, it's just carving like butter. If you have a close look at that, I mean, look at it. So I'm going to continue to cut the rest of my little roast here. Jazzy seems to think she's in the market for one, and I can almost guarantee you she's not. Little sprinkle more of that spice salt, just the crystals, the little crunch you get when you bite into them with the meat. And now the jungle butter prawns. Now I'm going to pile them up on top and to the side. There's no real necessity for them to be anywhere, to be honest, but we're going to eat it all together. Like a big pile of gravy. That's all right. A few couple of extra dots of that amazing butter. Okay, time to start building it up. I'm going to go first a little bit of the super finely cut lime leaves, and then I've got our first amount of one mango, and then of course the second mango. Just piled on top. We're going to stir it all through at the table. Maybe even more of our lime leaf. Just in layers, and then slowly build this up. So I've got some pennywort and the really crunchy sweet and sour curry leaves. All like fallen leaves everywhere. What's this one? We've got a beetle leaf. It can go up on there. Now, into the little pockets, I've got some finger lime. I love this stuff. We use it probably way too much, but it really just does add a level of pop and grind and spunk to the dish. You can smell it. It's like eucalyptus. There's a strong eucalyptus sort of smell that comes from the finger limes. Again, more of the kaffir lime. And just the last few juices over the meat from the prawn pan. So there we have it, team. Smoked and roasted, 9 score the Phoenix Wagyu, drenched in fish sauce and sugar and white pepper, smoked over hardwood, some incredible wood from up on the tablelands, and then finished crisped over the coals, jungle butter, tiger prawns, some lime leaves, some crispy fried beetle leaves, curry leaves, pennywort, and it all comes together into this incredible dish of crunch and sourness and just heady, intoxicating, savory curry butter deliciousness. It's a winner. It's a great one to share. Very, very rich. Thanks so much. Catch you soon.